Hello, my name is Michael Price. I'm a sales recruiter. I'm here to talk to you about a client director's role for a big software vendor. This is focusing on the government and healthcare market. So the client is a 270 million ARR business. They've got to that number in only 5 years. And basically what's happened here is you've got a really big services company who have created a software company. They created it by acquisition. And very much the makeup of that software company in terms of functionality, size of product, size of end user is very much in the same place as a Salesforce, Oracle, Microsoft, SAP. Is very much in that camp. They have huge clients and a huge tech stack, and they really are recruiting salespeople from absolute grade A big name vendors, and I mean grade A. The person I'm recruiting for here, I've known them for 15 years, and in the 25 years that I've been a sales recruiter, this is the number one person I've ever met. Full stop, bar none. No doubt about it. I've met some really, really good people. With all of this opportunity, because the clients bought, my clients bought all these different companies, so they bought their client base with them. They've brought all these different companies, so they bought their product base with them. They've put them all together, and you've got nearly 100 products with around 350 clients. That's a mix of commercial and public sector. And when the client was describing it to me, I said, this just feels like a patchwork quilt where you're supposed to fill in the holes. Sales director said, you made it sound a bit simple, Mike, but there is some truth in that. What we really want people to do is not just get caught up in product silos, but really to sit at a much higher level within the organisation. But with all that said, it is quite chaotic. A company that's grown this quickly can't not have some chaos in it. I personally, I don't know whether they'd agree. I mean, they've seen a couple of these videos, so I guess they don't disagree. But I personally would put the tech stack into three things. One is client engagement, one is data, and one is about it being secured. The security side of it is quite a small proportion, but nonetheless a fairly important part of the deal itself. And it's a mix of on-prem or cloud, which when you think about some of the big cloud companies that this company is competing with, actually there's going to be an advantage in that. So the role itself is client director role. There's a few different parts to this really. Part number one is to understand the client base that you have, understand where the holes are, and then get into product and then take it up into business need. Or if it's business need, then obviously tie it back to product. Target's 3.5 million in terms of revenue. I was talking to the client and said, is there any new business to do here? And they said, I don't see why you would. I mean, you can if you want, we're not going to stop you. But actually, within the client base, there's definitely enough business. They were saying they named one company actually, and I mean, to say the product's old, wow. I mean, it's probably nearly as old as me. I'm 47. And I said to the client, why have you bought that? And the client said, well, we bought a whole load of customers with them, and actually they then need to upgrade. So it's a real mix here in terms of the actual role, but the number one thing to do is to get to that 3.5 million target, and you've obviously got different routes and channels of being able to do that. This is focused on government, and when they defined government to me, they said we do a lot in central government, and we've got some really good healthcare reference sites. If I was sort of estimating, I would say it's about 65-70% government, and that's central, not really public sector, but government, and then the remainder being healthcare. But there might, catching myself out a little bit, there might be the odd big bit of public sector work. So what they're looking for is, number one, not entitled. We were speaking at length, actually. I was speaking at length with one of the salespeople, and he said, whilst there's nothing wrong with somebody having a perfect education, then a perfect start in IT sales with a tier one vendor, then moving to another perfect job within another perfect IT vendor, they just won't have been used to dealing with that chaos and having to do things for themselves. So that is very important. The next part of the personal need in terms of what they're looking for is that they really want somebody that can link the micro, so the product bit, with the macro, the overall journey. From a technology perspective, you really need to have sold enterprise application software. Enterprise application software. That is absolutely paramount. If you sell tin, you're not going to get this job. If you sell software where the order value is less than 200K, you won't get this job. Enterprise software. That's really what you need to have sold. And then from a vertical perspective, really, you need to know central government pretty well, I would say. Possibly health. So it's unlikely you'll know central government and health. If you did, that would be great. Would a straight healthcare salesperson get it? Possibly, but not if you're only selling clinical software. If you work for a clinical software vendor that, I don't know, software to manage x-rays, when you're selling to clinicians, you won't get this job. I don't think somebody who spends all of their time selling to councils will get the job. But actually, if that's part of the mix, then again, that's not going to hurt. Package, 110 to 125k basic, 250 OTE. I've recruited for this person for 15 years. They are always absolutely on the money about the realism of it. They were saying they really do anticipate somebody should absolutely bust that 250 as an OTE. The other part looking forward is, and I've used Simpson's reference here, Sector 7G, because Homer Simpson worked in Sector 7G. He worked in this little room and that was his only job. Actually, a lot of the people who work for big software vendors are going to work metaphorically in a little room. They might be just selling a commerce platform or something. That's not this. This is big product stack, client director. And I think in the fullness of time, as they recruit more, then it will narrow down. But right now, it is their big job. My contact details are on the screen. Also, the email address of my colleague Jo. It's unlikely we'll speak to her, but I do work with her a lot. So there's her email address anyway. Thank you. I'll hopefully speak to you soon.